This segment's being sponsored by the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. Join us in preserving and protecting Tennessee's wildlife.
This old Jeep as a restoration project, and for her age, she's not in too bad a shape. Some things are going to be easier fixed than others, but the end result is definitely going to be worth it. You know, in our walk with the Lord, we have a restoration process as well. The Bible calls it sanctification. It's the process of us becoming more Christ-like and a little less like the old man. You know, every day we have to strive to be more like him. Some days it may be a little harder than others. So my challenge for you this week is this: don't give up on your restoration process. Strive every day to be a little bit more like Christ than you were the day before. I promise you, that end result is definitely going to be worth it. Hey, thanks for watching this week. We pray that you're blessed, and always remember,
All right, guys, this segment's being sponsored by our friends at Taylor's Archery. Y'all can find them at 100 East Lauderdale Street in Tullahoma, Tennessee. Give owner Tracy Taylor a call at 931-563-7706 and get down there and let them get you set up and ready to go for this coming bow season. It's going to be here before you know it.
And he's got more stuff than you're going to need, he can load you up.
Jack went in there and got his set up.
I'm telling you, and now's the time to do it. Don't wait really much longer.
You'll wish you had. Yeah. Guys, we're going to go ahead and open the phone lines for you. Y'all can call us now at 615-737-7767. And while we're waiting on some of those, like you say, yeah, Tracy has got a lot of stuff set up down there, indoor range.
Man.
The other day, Jack went down there, got new arrows set up, a new sight set up. You know, they had to make some adjustments with his cams and all sorts of things to get it set up the way that he wanted it.
Right.
But you know what? They did.
Everything's
and
there.
They set it up the way he wanted it, and they tuned it. You know, you don't hear enough about tuning a bow anymore. You don't hear people talking about that kind of stuff anymore. Tuning a bow is just as important now
as it was at the first day.
That, you know, you get in your mind, well, I'm shooting a solo camera, I'm shooting a no
try
cam.
to explain to people real quick about tuning a bow, kind of quickly. You know, it's the tear in the paper that shows the kick of the arrow.
You know, used to we did the old paper tear test. So you take an arrow with no fletchings on it's really even better, but you want to shoot that paper, and the paper will tear, you know, a certain direction.
Right.
And it'll show you what way your arrow's kicking when you're shooting. So you'll take and adjust your rest and tune and whatever you need to do until you get a bullet hole. And you want to just be shooting an absolute perfect hole through that paper, which will tell you your arrow's flying true. And if you don't do that, I mean, you're very likely you're going to have a tear to the right, a tear to the left.
So that's the same way with fishing rods. When people make fishing rods, you have to take and physically roll that rod and find the spline to it.
Yeah.
You can buy 100 rods manufactured anywhere, but if that rod's not really splined to where it's supposed to bend that direction instead of bending sideways, that's why when you throw a bait, it'll kind of throw it to the left or throw it to the right, or something's weird.
And then you get that one really good rod that you can, I mean,
hit anywhere.
That's right.
But a lot of rods aren't splined, just like arrows.
That's right.
You know.
Now, speaking of rods, actually, you talked a lot in the video tonight about line weight, hook size. You like to use a number 4 because you don't want them swallowing it that much. But what about rod size? Like what rod do you recommend?
Well, Deacon likes to use a 5'5"
or a 5'6", something like that.
Something like that. And we always use 8. And like, you know, we never use a sinker. I always just like to let
just a hook and a wire.
just because a reason is if you're catching the bigger shellcracker versus the bluegill, a shellcracker won't take that float and go under. I mean, it'll literally barely just make a little bitty movement, and he's ate it, but he don't move. So when you think you don't have one and wind in, as soon as you wind in, you've got him off the bed, he's already ate it. So that's a big difference.
That's also a big reason for the bigger hook.
Right, he can't swallow it.
They're so apt to get a hold of it before you realize they're there. You don't want them to be able to get that hook.
I mean, you're catching shellcrackers that's 10 inches and 11 inches. I mean, they're big.
Yeah, good sized crappie is, you know, envision that.
Right,
Shellcracker.
right. So you have to get that hook to where they can't swallow it down in their throat, or you'll go through 1,000 hooks.
Yeah, and also you be killing some of those fish that
That you're releasing.
that you
Sure,
want to throw
absolutely.
back.
But that long shank hook, not the bait hook that's got the little barbs on it, go ahead and get the long shank. Because you can thread more worm kind of up on it.
Right.
You're not looping the worm, you're kind of just threading it up. And I didn't show you in the video, but we take a pair of scissors and cut sections in the worm instead of having to reach down there and messing with it. You just sit there and cut you 2 or 3 pieces and thread it on the hook and be done.
Right.
And you can catch 12 fish on one piece of worm, where people like crickets and mealworms, and I understand that, but I can take one piece of nightcrawler and catch 30 fish.
Yeah, you can.
You know what I mean?
Whereas a cricket,
you got
if
2 or 3.
If they even hit it and you don't get the hook set, it's gone. It's another
gone,
cricket every
so-
time. I love to use them.
I do too.
But you can expect that you're going to use that tube of crickets.
And that
one day.
nightcrawler has that worm, dirt, guts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a real natural, just like a cricket or anything, but it's tougher.
It is, and like you say, the best part, you can catch more fish with them.
Well, Deacon likes to throw
Little
plastics.
Bass Assassin, yellow and black
Yeah, and a
on a
132nd
132nd ounce head.
Yeah, I was going to say, you
8
caught
pound
several
test.
that way.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and see, he said it again, 8-pound test. I know y'all heard that a few times in video, but I mean, that's what you like to use.
Well,
because
here's
you
the-
don't want a log, a limb, anything. You think, well, it's just a panfish. 4-pound test is plenty. It is in clear, wide open water on Bell
Right.
Hollow when you're pulling him off of a
Yes.
sandy bottom. But if you get out there at Old Hickory and you're pulling him out of sticks and treetops,
And he runs 5
all it
foot
takes
this way
is
and 8
one limb, one wrapping at 4 pound,
And it's
it's
over.
gonna pop.
And plus, you can catch 15 fish before you have to retire 20.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because once you retire and move that float, you may go to one bank and you're fishing 18 inches. You may go to the next bank and you're fishing 3 foot. So by the time you move that float up and down, you always got to retie. So therefore, always keep your reels full of line. Don't ever go to the lake. I don't care if you're bass fishing, cat fishing, whatever you're doing. Just make sure your reels are plumb full of line. Don't get out there where you rear back and throw and it hits 5 foot in front of you because you don't have no line on it. Because that's just part of being a little bit better and be able to reach further.
It is.
And
y'all are getting back in those beds pretty good. And now you've already shared several tips tonight. We're going to have a lot of tips on tonight's show. So I want to get to one that you shared with me earlier it's a great idea. I'm doing it from now on.
Okay.
So you get to the lake, you got your box of worms.
You got your box of night. Tony Eckler, a buddy of mine, taught me this 4 or 5 years ago over shellcracker fishing. So when you get to the boat ramp, you take your box of night crawlers, you open them up, and you go over to the water and you wash the lid of it, and you physically get the night crawlers out and wash the box out and wash it good, to where there's no dirt, and wash the worms to where there's nothing but a worm in that box. And you put 2 or 3 cubes of ice in that box. And it keeps them worms 10 times cooler than the dirt. And there's no dirt in your boat.
Right.
There's zero
And
dirt.
you're not digging through dirt
And you're
trying
not
to get,
skipping dirt off in the boat and you're digging around. They're right there around that ice and they're cold.
Yeah.
And then you don't do 5 boxes like that. You just do a box at a time.
Yeah.
So if you have 2 worms left that day, just take them out and put them back in the box that you have worm with dirt in them.
Yeah, set them in the refrigerator.
I mean, because all
They'll last a good while.
your walleye fishermen do that religiously. If you go on a walleye guide trip, they'll have a box of red wigglers, box of night crawlers, and they're completely dirtless. You know what I mean?
That's right. Hey, I'm glad you hit on that. You kind of led me into something else. We said we're going to talk about a lot of different fish tonight, but Nathan Ball, you know Nathan,
yes.
I've known him for a long time, and he does a lot of walleye fishing.
And he lives in Knoxville.
He's been wearing them out.
Well,
he's in Knoxville.
He's in Knoxville, Morristown, East Tennessee.
He's been filming some shows for us. I'm looking forward to starting to share some of them in a few weeks, and we're going to be covering walleye tactics. Well, I'm going to tell you, one of the #1 baits that Nathan catches these walleye on is a night crawler.
Sure.
I mean, just about every fish in the lake will eat a night crawler.
Well, that's your Dale Hollow trips. That's all the people. But doing it and physically going and doing it's 2 different things.
That's
so
right.
you got to get up there and do it and do all that. And that takes a lot to do that. But hey, they're catching them, and Nathan knows what he's doing.
He does.
I mean,
He does. I'm
he's
glad
a
to
great
have him
fisherman.
joining
He's a
up
good
with us,
friend. I love him.
We're going to bring some East Tennessee into it now. So
we just have to watch him, make sure he acts right. He'll try to keep you fish. You done
That's
got
right.
a couple fillets. He'll have them cooking over on the bank.
He will. He
him.
carries a skillet with him.
That's right. He'll have them fried up.
Well, guys, we're going to get ready to go over and do this week's tip of the week. This week's tip of the week is being sponsored by our good friend Wes Stone over at Crawlite Realtors. Y'all can find him at 1432 West Main Street in Lebanon, Tennessee, or give Wes a call at 615-444-8200 and let him take care of all your real estate needs. All right, we're going to go over to this week's tip of the week.
See this? Everybody does that with spinning reels. I'm gonna try it. It works 90% of the time. But we've been fishing with this line a bunch. I'm gonna take the spool off. I'm gonna turn it upside down. And I'm gonna start trying to ease that line off from the bottom side of the spool instead of coming off the top side. You can see it still knotting up, but it's not completely knotting up to where it's making a knot. Now look, it's gone. Simply by taking the spool off and pulling it off backwards instead of trying to take it off the normal way. All you do is apply it back on, put your spool on, tighten it back up. As long as you got it spun over backwards, that's all that matters. I'm back and I'm clear to go. Always just take your spool off, flip it back upside down. And if you have any kind of twist in your rod like this, it's simple. Just bring it back, drop it over the reel, drop it over the handle, and you're back clear. Everything's back to normal. I ain't wasted no line. I ain't had to retie. And 90% of the time it would make a knot. So that's why you have to just take the spool off and we're back at it.